So today I want to go over in specifics the warm market prospecting guide. And like I was mentioning earlier, it's so important that we follow this warm market guide, because every single person that follows this system achieves results. And sometimes we think, you know what, okay, I'm using a warm market prospecting guide, but people aren't signing up after I use it. Well, it's not that the warm market prospecting guide is broken. It's doing exactly what it should be doing, and we'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and start with step number 1. And you guys, let's think about this. I mean, everyone's sitting here, everyone's wondering, how can I achieve massive results? And if I'm telling you, and if the leaders are sharing with you that the one thing that we know can lead to massive results is right in front of you, then why don't you guys have a pen and paper out right now taking notes? Why are you doing the dishes while the trading's going on? Go ahead and sit down and take 30 minutes of your time and take notes on what we're about to go over. And if you have not seen some of these screenshots before, that means that we definitely did not get off to the right foot, and because this is the warm market prospecting guide that's attached to your welcome email. So let's go over, what is the warm market? So the warm market is anyone you know, love, and trust. Anyone in Facebook that you may not even know. This is still warm market because you're Facebook friends. And believe it or not, the leaders still use this warm market prospecting guide for cold prospects also. But we're just going to talk specifically about your warm market. That's anybody on your Facebook, anybody in your cell phone, anybody that you've met before at least one time or through Facebook or whatever it is. So the first step in trying to introduce somebody to Kyani is the care and share process. Step 1, you have to care about people before you share with them. People really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we always say we have to reach for the heart before we ask for the hand. And the only way we're going to do this is if we show people that we care about them. And if you're prospecting somebody on your Facebook that you haven't talked to in a long time, this care and share step could take a little bit longer. But what the care and share step is always asking questions about the person that you're talking to. Even if they ask you a question about what you're doing lately, you always want to redirect the conversation back to them. Now, what I always like saying, and what Mr. Jordan says is, hey, what's up? How are you doing? And once they answer and say, and how are you? We always say, living the dream. Or oh my gosh, I'm doing amazing. I just started a new business. Anyways, how's your family? And we redirect the conversation straight back to them, because we're giving little bits and pieces of why Kyani is making a difference in our life, but we're not directly mentioning Kyani. And in the warm market prospecting guide, we show different screenshots of conversations that I've had with people and how I cared about them before I shared. And I always was transparent, and we always have to introduce the business with excitement, because people want to follow strength and excitement. People don't want to follow weakness. And believe it or not, even through Facebook, people can sense your level of excitement, and people can sense just your overall attitude about the business. If you wake up and you have a bad day and 3 people tell you no, and you let that attitude carry over into your next conversation, they're going to be able to see that. So within step number 1 in the care and share, there are 4 letters that I want everyone to write down. The first one is F. F is for family. So the first thing that we want to do when we talk to any prospect about Kyani is we want to get to know about their family. Hey, you know what? How is your family doing? I know that your daughter was in gymnastics. I saw a picture on Facebook. Did she love gymnastics? Wow, do you get to spend a lot of time with them? What do you guys do on the weekends? These are certain questions that can come up in conversation so that you can get to know what their family is up to. And the next one is O, occupation. What are you up to nowadays? Oh, wow, I didn't know you worked in that industry. How do you like it? And if somebody gives a super long title of what their position title is that they work at, I always, because, there's position titles that are 9 words long that make somebody feel real important. I always say, wow, that's a fancy title. You must be making 6 figures by now, with 1 million exclamation marks after it. And guess what? 90% of the time, they say, oh, haha, yeah, right, not 6 figures, I wish. So then something that might pique their interest about the business, which is money, right? So the next one is recreation. Hey, do you have a lot of free time? Because what's the main reason that we do Kyani, you guys? I mean, the main reason that we do Kyani is so that we can either have more money or more time or a combination of both. And when you explore recreation and see if somebody has a lot of free time or if they spend a lot of time with their family, that's another way to introduce the business. And the last letter is M, for money. And I briefly mentioned the money aspect earlier, but you can always say, oh my gosh, is that industry pretty good money? You must be doing great. And that question always leads to answers that you can use, as we like to say, ammunition to start speaking out about your business. Because if you go into a conversation with no ammunition and you build no value on the front end of the conversation, nobody is going to watch your webinar. I had a girl send me the other day that's in the business. She sent me a screenshot, and the first thing that, of course, I asked her is, are you using the Warm Market Guide? And she says yes, so I asked her to send me the screenshots. The first thing that she sent me was an opening to a conversation. It was a paragraph long. Hey, what have you been up to lately? I'm so excited right now. I just got involved in a business. I was thinking that you would be great for this. It's yada, yada, yada. It's with the health and wellness product. Click on this link below to check it out. That's not the Warm Market Prospecting Guide. She completely did an entire elevator pitch without building any value on the front end. So let's go over these again, you guys. Family, occupation, recreation, and money. And let's take some examples here. So I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, hey, what have you been up to lately? And he said, man, I've just been traveling, with my job. I get to go to all these different markets, and my fiance, she's back at home and she works for the same company. He told me about his entire daily method of operations. And I was thinking in the back of my head, wow, you have somebody who you're so in love with, and you travel, 20 out of 30 days of the month. So what I always like to do is I like to hone in on what parts of Kyani would be exciting to that individual. And so let's say I say, oh my gosh, I'm living the dream. I'm doing great. I just got involved in a business. We're just expanding, and I'm really just living the dream. And then somebody says, well, what is the business? All I say is, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's a nutraceutical company, and I do it in my spare time, but make full-time money. Anyways, you said you were out of town a lot. Where are you right now? And I direct the conversation back to them. That's what we have to do in the Warm Market Prospecting Guide. So in the very first thing, you always ask questions about them. You direct the conversation back to them. The less people feel like you are trying to sell them, the more that they're going to listen. So step 1, care and share. And then it's F, O, R, and M. That's the first step. Okay, guys? Moving on to the second step. After you form them, after you got a good idea of what makes them click, it's going to take some getting used to for you guys to understand when to say some of these things, because you don't want to present it too soon. You don't want to present it too late. You want to use the opportune moment to introduce the business. So after you've kind of given them little bits and pieces about Kyani, and they've given little bits and pieces about their life, you say either one of these 3 things. Oh, wow, why didn't I think about you sooner? You would really be amazing at this. Are you interested in hearing more about what I'm doing? Or are you interested in hearing more about the business I'm involved in? Or, you know what, I just started working with a group of entrepreneurs that are expanding in our market, like I said earlier, and I'm going to be able to create part-time income straight from home. You have to take a look at this. This is building urgency. This is building value. These are the types of verbiage that are going to get somebody to listen to you. Or you can say, listen, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but for some reason you popped into my mind. I'm so glad you're doing good, but I just started working on the biggest project of my life, and I thought you'd be interested too, because earlier you were telling me about, that you weren't making as much money as you were wanting to make. So you always personalize it. You can use these scripts and tweak them and personalize them to make sense for your conversation. So that's what you do after you FORM, after you form them. Then the second step is to build value. Now we need to build value on the webinar. If you guys have received your welcome email, you will see on that welcome email that you have plenty of links and videos to be able to send to somebody to introduce the business or to introduce the product. So what we need to do next is build value on the webinar links. Now, number one, there's the business side. So if you're talking to somebody about business, you can send the webinar link. If the conversation leads you to talk to somebody about their health or their family's health, and then you form them and you realize that that's what's important to them, you can always send the product video. That's also in your welcome email. But the first thing, let's just take building value. You never want to send a webinar until somebody is at the computer or at a tablet and able to watch it for 30 minutes interrupted. I'm going to say that again because no matter how many times I say it, I still see people that are sending links. Hey, check this out when you have a chance. No, that's not how this business was meant to run. You never want to send a webinar until somebody is at a computer or at a tablet and able to watch for 30 minutes and are uninterrupted. We want to build urgency, and we never answer questions. We want to let the videos and webinars speak for the business because over talking leads to failure. This past weekend in San Antonio, we had a regional. And there was a leader there that was talking about how simple the system is and about his experience with prospecting. Now, there was a lady that he introduced to the business months and months and months prior, but she didn't listen to him at first. And he did the whole forming process, but it just wasn't the right time for her. Then fast forward 6 months, he's driving a brand new Porsche. He's helped hundreds of people create passive income. He's doing amazing. And she sees all of this on his Facebook. So she reaches out to him and she says, hey, you know what? What is this that you're doing? I see you driving a brand new car. I see all this motivation and positive stuff on your Facebook. Is this that thing that you were telling me about before? And instead of this individual saying, yes, oh my gosh, here's the details, you should totally take a look at it, yada, yada, yada. He said, yeah, it's the same business. And she said, well, tell me about it. And he was like, well, when do you have some time to watch a video that explains it better than I could? And she said, come on, why don't you just tell me? Why can't you just tell me about it? And he said, well, because that's the way our business is run. The system is so simple that I don't even have to explain the business. I can rely on master internet mogul, Mr. Scott Bolch, to relay the vision of the company straight from his webinar. And this person's like, okay, well, I guess I'll take a look at it. So she took a look at the webinar and they got together for coffee. And this individual just started talking and getting to know this person again. And keep in mind, the person had already watched the webinar. And this girl starts asking him hundreds of questions. And he said, oh, you have some questions about the video? And she said, yeah. And he was like, well, that's perfect. Let me get my mentor on the phone. And she's like, why can't you just tell me? Why can't you just answer my question? And he's like, because my mentor, the way the system goes is my mentor answers the questions so that I don't have to. So she gets on the phone with his mentor, and this mentor answers all the questions. And you guys, this business partner could have easily answered all of her questions, but he followed the system to a T. A moral of the story is this individual gets started into the business, and 2 days later, she calls up the original person that introduced her to the business. And she goes, hey, I have somebody on the other line that's interested in talking about Kyani. And he goes, well, why didn't you explain it to him? And she goes, well, I didn't think I was supposed to. I just sent him that link that you made me watch. And he starts laughing. And she says, this person has some questions. And the upline goes, okay, well, why didn't you answer the questions? And she goes, I didn't think I was supposed to. You just put me on the phone with your mentor and I got started. You guys, that's how simple this process is. And he laughed and he talked to that individual and they got started. If we just simply follow this process, All of us can be successful. We don't have to do the explaining. So in step number 2, you're building value on that webinar link. You don't answer questions. So this is the way to build value and urgency. The first way is, after they say, you know what, I want to know what you're up to, or what exactly is it? You say, great, when will you make time to watch a 25-minute webinar that explains the business? Or, okay, awesome, I want to send you the webinar, but I want to make sure that you have 25 minutes uninterrupted to watch it in front of a computer. What time will you be home? And then this person may say, oh, I'll be home tonight. You can go ahead and send it. What I would say is, you know what? I can't send the link. It's time sensitive. I need you to watch it as soon as I send it. So what time works for you, tonight or tomorrow night? You're giving them 2 options that both lead to them watching the webinar. And you always want to make sure that you don't send a webinar before they are at a computer or at their cell phone to watch it right then. That's building urgency. Then what you do, if you tell them that you're gonna follow up at a later time, you say, great, I'm gonna follow up with you at this time to make sure you're home, and then I'll send a link. So that is the basis of building value and urgency on the webinar. You guys, it's very, very straightforward. You may be sitting here thinking, what have I been doing wrong for my first 30 days in the business? Maybe, how come I haven't hit the position of Sapphire? How come I haven't hit the position of Pearl or of Jade or whatever rank you wanted to be? Well, these are the things that it's going to take to get you there. When you write a long paragraph, people don't want to hear about it. You should be writing a minimum of 2 sentences or 3 sentences to get people as a reply to their comment, to get people interested. So number 2, build value and urgency. Number 3, we have to follow up when the webinar is complete. What good is it if we form somebody in step number 1, and then we build value and urgency on the webinar in step number 2, and they watch the webinar, but then we don't even follow up with them after? That's not completing the full process. We have to fall in love with the process, follow the steps, and then we'll complete the entire warm market prospecting guide, and we're going to receive the results. So number 3 is follow up when the webinar is complete. What you want to say is, what did you like best about what you saw? You don't want to say, what did you think? Or are you ready to get started? Or any other comment whatsoever. You say, what did you like best about what you saw? This should be the one and only question that you ask them. And after they answer, regardless of what they say, you need to say, you know what, that's one of the same things that I felt when I was first introduced to the business. Or, you know what, I totally understand your concern because I thought the same thing when I first saw the business, but this is so different than anything I've ever seen. I'm so excited. Put exclamation marks, do capitalization, do whatever you need to do to show this person that you're so fired up. Now, guess what, guys? This is a funnel process. So some people are going to watch your webinar and then they're going to say, I'm not interested. And you're going to say, you know what? I totally understand. That's what I first thought too. But this is so different. I'm so excited. And then they're going to say, you know what? I really don't have the time. And you say, you know what, that's one of the best things about this business is you don't have to have a lot of time. And some of these people are going to fall off. Some of these people are not going to respond to you. This doesn't mean that the warm market prospecting guide doesn't work, because guess what? They watched a webinar. It was piquing their interest. Those people that fall off, you write down on a piece of paper and you can follow up with them at a later time. And I'm going to show you guys the process of following up. So let's say that somebody says, you know what, Jamie, thanks for letting me watch your video. But I saw at the back that you have to invest money and I just don't have that money to invest. You say, you know what, I totally understand your concern. I didn't have the money when I first got into the business either, but I was so excited because I wanted to change what I was currently doing and I wanted free time that I came up with the money in 20 days of time. Or you can make it more personally. You know what? I totally understand what you're saying, but I know that just a second ago you told me that you have a water bill that you couldn't even pay this month. Well, my mentor tells me you can invest $600 in something so you'll never have a $600 mistake ever again, so that you can pay your bills. Don't let, and I want everyone to write this down, don't let your reason why you need to do the business be your reason why you won't do the business. Don't let your reason why you should do the business be the reason why you don't do the business. Now, what do I mean by this? People say they don't have time. Well, they should want time, and that's why they should do the business. People say they don't have the money. If they don't have the money, that's the reason they should do the business. If they don't have good health, well, that's the reason you should do the business. So don't let your reason why you should do the business be your reason why not to do the business. Don't let that be an excuse. So these are the type of things that you can say to people. You always want to relate back to them. But step 3 is extremely important because we want to follow up when the webinar is complete. Step number 4 is the 3-way call. Step number 4, 3-way call. Now, as you guys saw in the video that I just played, it was called the hilarity of simplicity, and how funny it is when you give somebody a process and they decide to do it their own way and they aren't successful, and then they blame it on the company or on the leadership. Now, in this, the 3-way call is like a PBR. I want you guys to focus more than anything on scheduling 3-way calls, because if you guys can schedule 3-way calls with your upline, you've already gotten through half the battle. If somebody commits to a 3-way call, you should be proud of that. If they don't show up to the 3-way call when it's time, guess what? It's a numbers game. It's okay. So step 4 is the 3-way call. You want to schedule it by assuming the 3-way call. Right after they tell you what they liked about the business, you guys, whether it's, the product or the extra money or whatever it is, you want to schedule the call right then. Don't let anything else happen in between them, because they'll get distracted, you'll get distracted, and we won't set up a 3-way call. Even if they say they don't have the time or the money to get started, you still want to schedule a 3-way call. Now, you're probably sitting here asking, well, typically after the webinar, they'll tell me something they liked about it, but then they'll start asking me tons of questions. Well, guess what? It is not your job to answer questions. I remember when I first got started and I answered a million questions. I burned through so many leads because I didn't listen to Mr. Jordan. I wasn't listening to him. I didn't listen to the other leaders. I wanted to do it my own way. And that's the reason I had some failure at the beginning. And that's the reason on day 3, I decided I wanted to quit. On day 3, I had made a mental decision that I wanted to quit. And 1 year later, I'm a green diamond in the company. So if you're sitting here on your 3rd day, your 3rd week, your 3rd month thinking, I want to quit, right around the corner is success for you. And if you quit now, you'll never get to the gold. Just like somebody who's digging for gold and digging for gold, and maybe they're digging for gold for 5 days, 6 months, a year, 10 years. Guess what? That piece of gold could have been right behind that next wall. So we want to remember that 3-way calls, the more that we can get scheduled, the more success that we'll have. So how do we schedule a 3-way call? Well, remember, after they watch the webinar, we ask them, what did you like best about what you saw? After they say what they liked best about what they saw, we schedule a 3-way call by following the script. And once again, the script is in your welcome email. If you have not received a welcome email from your upline, you need to contact your upline Sapphire. Write that down right now, because if you haven't received that, that might be the reason why you're a little bit discouraged right now, because it sets you up for success. And if you're not properly trained, then of course we can't just assume that you're going to be successful. So this is the script that you use to schedule a 3-way call. And you can tweak this, and you can tweak it however you want, but this is the basis of the script. You say, you know what? That's the best thing that I liked about the business too. And then you say, my business expansion leader, Mr. Mendoza, told me that if I had anyone today or tomorrow that I thought would be great at helping with the expansion of the product, or, that I thought would be great at being a customer, right? You have to tweak it, that I should get them on a 3-way call with him. He is a top leader in multiple different markets and has worked directly with the core group of leaders that launched Kyami in the United States. Not to mention has helped several or helped hundreds or thousands of individuals achieve health or financial success. So you guys get the gist of it. You can tweak this any way you want. When can we get you on a call with him? Would tonight or tomorrow afternoon work better? Once again, you're giving them two options that both lead to getting on a three-way call. Then you're going to contact your upline and ask if they have that time available that the prospect requested. Now, we just created even more of a simple system for this part B right here for scheduling that three-way call. All you have to do is obtain your upline Emerald's Meet Me account. And what a Meet Me account is it's a link. You can use it straight from your cell phone or straight from the computer. You click on that link, you go to their schedule and see if that time's available, and you book it on their calendar. It's all done online, so you don't even have to contact the upline of yours. So put another star on your piece of paper, and if you don't have your upline Emerald's Meet Me account, then you need to get that. Now, you're probably like, well, what if my upline Emerald doesn't have the time available that I need? Guess what? There's an upline Diamond to that person, and that upline Diamond has their Meet Me account. Oh my gosh, well, the upline Diamond doesn't have that time I requested either. Well, you contact your upline Blue Diamond. And we can't go cross lines. So if you're in Mrs. Meyer's business, you can't scoot over and ask Miss Mendoza to do a three-way, but you can ask myself or Mr. Jordan or Mr. Brandon Johnson. There's an entire chain of solution, and we've actually created graphics so that when you get started in the team chat that you guys are in, that graphic is given to you so you know your upline chain of solution so you can schedule a three-way call. No matter what, you have to schedule the three-way call. Then on C is what you do the day and time of the three-way call. So let's say it's that day. You call the prospect on three-way, then you call your upline. And while the prospect is on the other line, you say, hey, Miss Mendoza, this is the person that I scheduled on your calendar. I put a little synopsis where it told me to do on the online account, but I wanted to tell you just really briefly about her. Like I said, she's yada, yada, yada. So you're explaining to Mrs. Mendoza about your prospect. Then once you do that, you merge the call. And this is exactly what you say. There's a couple different options. Awesome, this is Mr. or Mrs. Mendoza or Mrs. Myers or whatever the upline is, or the Venegas is, or the Miss Leanne Lyles, and you say, hey, this is the person I was telling you about. I'm so glad that she had the time to speak to you individually. Like I mentioned, she's been instrumental in launching multiple different markets in the U.S., and I know all of us together can impact so many lives through the product if it's more product-based conversation. And I know with the help of the system, Miss Whitney Rivers is going to be so awesome at helping you make some great part-time income. Or, Mr. Mendoza or Mr. Brandon Johnson. So you guys can tweak the script, but this is the basis of what we need to do. We need to stay in line with this. And then you say, you know what, since you're the expert, Miss Mendoza, I'm going to let you take it from here. And then your upline Emeralds, your upline Diamond, Blue Diamond, Green Diamond, Purple Diamond, Red Diamond, whatever it is, they will know how to conduct the three-way call. It's very, very simple, you guys. Now, you're probably sitting here thinking, well, I've done all of that and it didn't work out. So what happens if they don't sign up, guys? Instead of saying it didn't work, or the Warm Market Prospecting Guide didn't work, or the system didn't work, I'm going to tell you guys right now, that's not true. It did work. The Warm Market Prospecting Guide worked because it piqued interest. The webinar worked because it got them curious and it educated them on the business. And guess what? The three-way call worked because it shared the vision and it spoke to somebody that has social proof. Well, what if they didn't sign up? I'm just going to quit because they didn't sign up. I followed the steps. I've talked to 20 people and nobody signed up. Well, no, the process still isn't over. The last step is the follow-up. Did you guys know that there's an 80% of sales that close on the 5th to the 12th exposure? So after you followed the Warm Market Prospecting Guide system, it's time to follow up. And I'm going to teach you guys today the 2 by 2 by 2 method. That's the 2 days by 2 weeks by 2 month method. So I want everyone to sit here and I want everyone to think of every single person that they've reached out to. And imagine that every single one of those people was written down on a piece of paper and you wrote next to their name when they fell out of the funnel process. I'm going to teach you a way today to be able to follow up with every single one of those people. And we actually have some screenshots because the leaders, the emeralds, the diamonds, the blue diamonds, all the way up to purple diamonds in our group, we have been experimenting on ways to follow up. And Mrs. Mendoza, you know, the amazing leader that she is, she just cracked the code. I'm telling you guys, she cracked the code on following up. We have a script for you guys to follow up with these people. A couple of these scripts my husband and I put together, but the last script, man, you're going to see in a second, it's golden. So I want everyone to get out their pens and papers because we're going to talk about the follow-up, because 80% of sales happen on the 5th to 12th exposure. What is an exposure, guys? An exposure is a webinar. An exposure is a PBR. An exposure is a 3-way call or a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-1 or a car program video. Those are all exposures. So 80% of those close on the 5th to the 12th exposure. So let's talk about what to do in the follow-up process for those 5 to 12 exposures. 2 days. 2 days after somebody watches your webinar and they have a 3-way call, or let's just take, for instance, they have a 3-way call, okay? So 2 days later, they still haven't talked to you. You say, hey, Jackie, are you there? She's going to say yes, or maybe she won't respond. And if she doesn't respond, then we go to the 2-week training, which I'm going to show you in just a second. But let's talk about 2 days. So perfect. What are you doing tonight? Oh, great. Okay, I just wanted to follow up with you because Miss Lauren Moore reminded me today to tell you about a training that we're having tonight. She said I could sneak you on. I know that you said that you didn't have the money to get started right now, or I know that you said you really didn't have the time. So I know this will give you a really good idea of what being part of Kyani looks like. Once you see how simple it is, you'll get it. I'm going to text you around 8:30 and I'm going to send you the link. And if they say, well, you can send it now, what's the answer always going to be? No, I won't send it now. The launch call. This is the training that I'm speaking about. That is another exposure. After somebody has a 3-way call and they're still on the fence, get them on a launch call. And we have the launch call posted. You know what the link is going to be, but you can text them on the day that the launch call is, and you can use this script and get them on a launch call. There has been plenty of people that have watched my webinar or my husband's webinar, and they were skeptical at first. So I got them on a launch call, and they still might have been a little bit skeptical, but they saw how simple the system was. So this is your 2-day script. And I'm going to give everyone a couple seconds to go ahead and write this script down. And what I'm going to do, there's a chat area in your on the screen that you're in. I'm going to take the first 3 people that have a question, and I'm going to answer their questions right now live on this call. So the first 3 people that ask a question, I'm going to answer. Go ahead and write down this script, and I'll start to answer the questions. I am waiting for a question. I see one in here that says, there are so many links. I'm not sure which one is the right webinar link. On the webinar link, on your welcome email, the webinar link says the standalone webinar. That's the webinar that introduces the business. Okay, guys, that's the business. Now, there's also a product video that I think is down maybe number 7 on your welcome email, and that can introduce the product. So those are the 2 main things that you're going to use first and foremost. And Miss Annette says, what if they attend a DFY? Will this work for them as well? Great question. Absolutely, this will work for them as well. The follow-up system can be on any exposure. It doesn't have to be just the webinar. It doesn't have to be just the 3-way call. Let's say you contact somebody and you use the PBR inviting script that's also in your welcome email. Let's say you use that and somebody comes to a PBR or a DFY event with you. Yes, it will work for them. So you can get them on a launch call directly afterwards. That's a great question. And another person said, I'm looking for the webinar with Scott Bolch. Yes, the webinar with Scott Bolch is either on the application. You can have somebody download the mobile application, or it's straight on your welcome email. So that is called the standalone webinar. That's the Scott Volch webinar. And the last question is, what if they're interested? Let's see, what if they're interested and want to join automatically? Should they watch the webinar anyways? That was from Gianna. Yes, they should watch the webinar anyways. They need to be fully educated. And even if after they say, okay, I'm ready to get started, still schedule them with a call with your upline. Guys, follow the system, even as simple as it is. If they seem like they're ready to get started, because what you do with a representative will duplicate down. So if you teach a representative that's a prospect at the time to watch your webinar and then just get started, guess what they're going to think every other person that they reach out to should do? And that's going to make them discouraged. So we want to make sure that we're following the system to its entirety. And if you have not received your welcome email, you need to get that from your upline Sapphire. From your upline Sapphire. I'm going to answer a couple more questions. The last one will be Taylor. So no more questions. What if they tell you they have a lot of things on their plate and I'll get back to you? Well, guess what? You put them on that list. You put them on the list and you get them, you talk to them in 2 days and then 2 weeks and then 2 months. All right. Live broadcasts of events is also an exposure. Yes. So that's another question that somebody asked. And another person said, what would we introduce the product to? What would we use to introduce the product with those with health benefits without sending a video link? Well, if you don't send a video link, then your job is to take them or mail them the product. Once they get the product, then you say, hey, I'm going to send you a link that shows you how to take the product and what's all in the product. And then you'll follow up with them at that time. All right, guys, great questions. So this is the 2-day follow-up. This can be from a webinar, from a live event, from a PBR, from a DFY, from a product being passed out, from a 3-way call, anything. The next is at 2 weeks. At 2 weeks, we want to form again. So I followed up with somebody 2 weeks after Mr. Jordan had a conversation with them. And all I said is, hey girl, how's Papados? Or hey girl, did you work last night? I'm following up and kind of leading them back into opening up to me. And you're making the conversation heartfelt and about them. And if the opportunity arises to mention the business again, you absolutely introduce it. Now, if at 2 weeks they don't give you any leeway and they're still not interested, don't worry, there's a 2-month follow-up. So, but if the opportunity arises, or if they say, how are you? And you can say, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm doing so good. I know it's been a couple weeks since we talked, but listen, I have XYZ. Now, if it comes up again, what do you give them an option of? Rewatching a webinar, jumping on a Sunday or Monday night Team Fusion call to hear success stories, maybe watching the launch call again, maybe having another 3-way call again, or maybe they should try the product. Because what I always say is if somebody's not giving me anything to work with on the business, I say, you know what? I totally understand what you're feeling. I just wanted to follow up with you again. Would you do me a favor? Would you, if I sent you some product, would you let me know how it made you feel? And then you can say something like, it's an amazing product. It's changed my life. And I'm just doing everything I can to impact 1 million lives by 2018. Would you mind trying it for me? So send them the product. These are the 2-week follow-ups that you're going to be approaching to that prospect. Okay, well, what if the person still doesn't sign up at 2 weeks? There's a 2-month follow-up. This is the golden follow-up that Ms. Mendoza created. And this follow-up can be used in multiple different ways, so I'm going to explain, but we want to stick to the script. This verbiage that you see, you want to make sure you're using this exact verbiage. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, a year. You can use this 2 months plus with every single person that didn't watch your webinar, or that didn't answer you after they watched the webinar, or maybe people that you scheduled a 3-way call with, but they no-showed. These are all different people that you can use this on. So you say, hey, it's been a while since we last spoke. It's Alyssa. Very simple, right? Or it's Kenley. I just wanted to reach out real quick. I am now building a sustaining passive income, or I have built a sustaining 5-figure income per month or 6-figure income per year or whatever it is. I am now building a sustaining income, a passive income, and I'll be helping 20 people do the same in 2016. Are you still open-minded about this business? Guess what? The majority of the time, the people will say, you know what? I'm so sorry I didn't follow up. Yes, I'm still interested. So I'm going to read that again. Hey girl, it's been a while since we last spoke. It's Alyssa. Just wanted to reach out real quick. I'm now building a sustaining 6-figure income, and I'll be helping 20 people do the same in 2016. Are you still open-minded about this business? And one thing that I want you guys to write down is you could say, are you still open-minded at all about this business? Even the littlest hint of open-mindedness. Are you still open-minded at all about this business? If they say yes, this is what you say. Great. When can you be in front of a computer to watch a new webinar that goes over the business again, just to be sure this is something you're still interested in? Guys, we're going right back. It's funny. We're going right back to the Warm Market Prospecting Guide by building value and urgency on the webinar link. And guess what we do after they watch the webinar? We ask them that same question. What did you like best about what you saw? So this is the 2-month follow-up. This is golden. And I'm going to show you some examples because you probably don't believe me right now. I'm going to show you some examples of where this worked. And I feel really bad for the 8 people that jumped off. We were capped out at 200 because those people are going to miss out on what I'm about to show you guys. This is one example. Hey, Tyler, it's been a while since we spoke last. It's Alyssa. Just wanted to reach out real quick. I'm building a sustainable 6-figure income now and help 26 people do the same in 2015. Are you still open-minded at all to this business? So you can see how I changed it around a little bit, but the structure of that text message is exactly the same. And guess what Tyler says? Yes, I am. Guess what I say? Awesome. When can you be in front of a computer today to watch a new webinar that goes over the business, just to be sure this is something you're still interested in? And he says, later this evening, I should have some time. And guess what I did at 5 p.m.? I followed up with him. And guess what? He watched the webinar again. And then what? We had a 3-way call. And guess what? He's jumping on a launch call this week. Next example. Hey, Chad, it's been a year since we spoke last. This is Kenley Mendoza. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to reach out real quick. I'm building a sustainable 7-figure per person business now, and I need your help. Are you still open-minded about this business? There you go. She used the structure of the script, changed it up a little bit. Yes. Okay, perfect. When can you be in front of a computer today to watch the new webinar that goes over the business, just to make sure this is something you're still interested in? Guess what the person says? I'll be back home tomorrow, then I could view. Great. What time tomorrow should I follow up? After lunch. 1 p.m.? That's fine. Great. I'll talk to you then. Do you see how she didn't give any other information about the business? She didn't send the webinar link right then. She asked when he would be available. Next example. You guys can see the responses. It's the same script. I am. What's the business? Well, when can you be in front of a computer? I'm in the front of the computer right now. Perfect. I'm going to send you the link. He sent the link. Next. Hey, Carla. Hope you're having a great spring break. This is a little bit different approach. This is about the product, you guys. So since the last time we spoke, I've been able to build a sustainable 6-figure income and help several people on my team do the same. See how she said several people? Maybe she's not a green diamond and she hasn't helped 30 people do it, but she's helped several people. Are you still open-minded to a business like this? This lady responds and says, you know what, I'll let you know as soon as I'm ready to join, but I definitely want to know about the product because it's going to improve my energy. And she follows up and says, great, send me your address and I'll send you some products. So this is how the product side goes. Another one, if you guys can notice here, on February 11th, 2015, this person reached out to somebody. It was me. I reached out to this person and said, hey, what did you like best about what you saw? I followed the Warm Market Prospecting Guide, but she never reached back out to me. So then last Saturday, I said, hey, Tiffany, it's been a while since we spoke last. It's Alyssa. I followed the script, and she said, I'm always open-minded. So she watched the webinar again. She's jumping on a launch call again, and she will get started. So these are proof, you guys. This is proof that it happens. Here's another one. You guys can see how when this person first followed up with Lucy, they said, you know what? I have no time for this. You look great, but I'm just not interested. Well, then Brenda went back to, you know what? I know how you feel. What's so great about Kyani is I experienced this. Have a great week. And then the prospect says, well, maybe you can send me the webinar again. And then she says, I'll make space for the webinar. And then she says, I'll call you this evening. You guys, you just have to follow up. Last one here. Hey, James, this is Kenley. Hope you're doing well. She follows the script. He says, yes, I am. Will you guys be involved in El Paso? She says, not anytime soon. We have a great support system there with a handful of incredible diamonds. But the beauty of this business is you run it all from an app on your phone. And as you can see, it kind of got cut off. But she says, when will you have 28 minutes to watch the webinar? So this is proof, you guys. This is proof. And there's many, many other ones, but this is proof that it works. This is proof that the Warm Market Prospecting Guide, the 3-way call, the follow-ups, it's proof that it works. So I challenge every single person on this call today to not make excuses, to follow the Warm Market Prospecting Guide, to use some of the training that we went over today to grow your business, because success is right around the corner. If I would have said no day 3, none of you guys, none of anybody on this call would have had the opportunity to even be on this call to learn because of the butterfly effect. If I wouldn't have said yes, the Mendozas wouldn't have said yes, Macy Myers wouldn't have said yes, Lauren Moore wouldn't have said yes, Deshaun Walker wouldn't have said yes, Leanne Lyles wouldn't have said yes, Brenda Garza, Jackie Cooper, Whitney Rivers, Clifton Covington, and Sarah Campbell, all these people that are your leaders, they would have never said yes, and you wouldn't have had that opportunity. So stop making excuses, use the Warm Market Prospecting Guide, follow up, and schedule 3-way calls, and we can make this happen. You guys have a great evening. Bye-bye.